You are listening to a reproduction of Uncle Sam's Farm Radio School from the United States Department of Agriculture in 1926. Disclaimer: do not assume content reflects current scientific knowledge, policies, or practices. This broadcast was aired 4th of October 1926.
Tonight we are opening Uncle Sam's Big Livestock Radio School. Students who are already enrolled and others who wish to join the class will give us their attention. Printed lessons are sent without charge to those who request enrollment blanks. Send your request to this station or to the radio service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We are now going to introduce Mr. Professor, our spokesman for a number of experts on livestock in the Bureau of Animal Industry of the Department of Agriculture. He will talk on principles of livestock breeding. This is the first of the regular Monday evening lessons on farm livestock.
You've all heard the expression, blood will tell. It's the cornerstone of wise livestock breeding. The most successful stockmen also know that blood will sell. Some men in battle have sold their blood dearly, but we don't mean that. We're not referring to Custer's last stand now. When we speak of the expression blood will sell in this lesson, we refer to the fact that the kind of animal you raise and the price it brings depend on its breeding, its bloodlines. Of course, feed and care have a big influence, but unless good breeding is there also, you can't hope for the best results from livestock. This is the time of year when many of you livestock men go to fairs or livestock shows. There you really can get a lot of vital, valuable information by studying the show stock and by talking with exhibitors. Out in the green hills of Maryland, just a few miles from Washington, is the government experiment farm at Beltsville. Let's take a little trip out there. We can ride on the magic carpets of our imaginations. I believe in teaching with the materials for the lesson around me. Here we are. Over there to the right is a good-sized building where thousands of guinea pigs are bred. Guinea pigs are queer little animals. They multiply rapidly and are excellent mathematicians. They give the correct answer to a number of breeding questions. The men who are studying heredity at the Beltsville farm learn much that's new and valuable in the guinea pig quarters. Whatever an animal has, so far as its inheritance is concerned, it gets from its parents. Certain men in history have found that to be as true in their own cases. Have you ever heard of the Habsburg nose? I think I have inherited certain of my characteristics from my parents. I'd like to blame my snub nose on them. But coming back to livestock, whatever an animal has, it gets from its parents, so far as its inheritance is concerned. The parents get theirs from their parents, and so on back. The effects of feed, care, disease, and surroundings have a great deal to do with a young animal's developments. But those things have nothing to do with hereditary characteristics, such as color, length of hair, the presence or absence of horns, etc. These are inherited. It may seem to us, as we look about this experiment farm and see the variety of livestock and all their many different types and characteristics, that the principles of breeding are too many and too complicated for the average livestock owner to master. Still, it's easy for you to get some of the most important facts on the practical side of livestock breeding. A good many of these facts are summed up in a 30-page pamphlet issued by the Department of Agriculture. Suppose you send for Farmer's Bulletin 1167, Essentials of Animal Breeding. The underlying principles of hereditary are the same for all animals. When you learn them for cattle, you have already gone a long way toward a knowledge of breeding as it applies to other farm animals. Of course, all facts about heredity are not yet known, but I'll give you some of the most important ones for your use in the course of this lesson in Uncle Sam's Radio Farm School. I'll choose the ones you can apply in the daily work of improving your own flocks and herds. First, let's speak of prepotency. Prepotency is the power of animal, male or female, to stamp its characteristics on its offspring. The polled characteristics of some breeds of cattle enable the breeder to raise calves without horns. Prepotency also enables breeders to obtain livestock of the desired color markings and other characteristics desired in the offspring. Whether the offspring will be male or female is probably a matter of chance, so far as the livestock breeder is concerned. Over a period of years, he gets nearly equal numbers of both sexes. Then there's selection. Selection of the desired breeds and types has brought about the improvement of the important present breeds of livestock over the stock from which they came. Usually, a male is depended on to do this. That makes it vital that the males be chosen very carefully. If you livestock men will practice selection wisely and persistently, you will have a big advantage over those who leave the mating of their animals mostly to chance. Breeding may overcome many of the common defects of stock, such as weakness of back, excessive legginess, weakness of feet and legs, narrow chests, and general poor conformation. Improved breeding is also a valuable means of increasing the production of milk and butter fat in dairy cows and of eggs in poultry. With meat animals, improved breeding will hasten maturity and improve quality. You livestock men have all heard of pedigree registration. That is the foundation and assurance of pure breeding of livestock, with the exception of poultry and pet stock in the United States. To be classed as purebred, animals must be registered in a book of record for the particular breed. I know experienced and successful breeders who study the pedigrees of their stock for hours. They go back to the animal's parents and grandparents. They go back even to their animal's more distant ancestors. They study the characteristics of these ancestors carefully and with interest. The men here at the government experiment farm are among those who burn the midnight oil studying pedigrees. You've got to know about the breeding of your animals if you expect to do the best work improving what you have now. One of the most practical means of improving the quality and fixing the type of common mixed livestock is the use of purebred sires. If males are better individuals than the females with which they are mated, then each successive cress may be a big improvement over the ones which went before. It isn't good business to use crossbred or grade sires. Their hereditary material is so varied and complicated that you never know beforehand what kind of offspring you will get. The practical livestock man ought to be satisfied with selecting one of the standard breeds for his use, rather than attempting to develop something new. Such attempts usually cost a lot of money and rarely give good results. Let the breeding specialists do the long and complicated work of establishing new breeds. It's a fine thing to get information on animal breeding from reliable quarters, if you want the information sound. There are a lot of incorrect ideas of heredity going around. The men on this farm know that this is a good rule to remember. Breed the best to the best. Nature works in an orderly way. You livestock men will get the greatest proportion of high-quality animals when you select your breeding stock with great care, and then mate your animals so as to combine their good qualities and get rid of the defects. Remember, blood will tell.
This show was researched and produced by BreakAway Empire LLC.